Okay, Rabbi, good evening. We're going to continue from last week, pick up from where we left off, regarding the Talmud Torah, the mitzvah of studying Torah. Because we had still a lot of material left over to do. And this material is very, very important. Why is it very important? Because they say Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. The most important mitzvah that we have in the Torah is Talmud Torah. Right? Leilu Nishmat, Venera Bat, Simcha Bat, Betzion, Hanoledet Mi, Rosalea, Eshet Rafael. Menuchata Began Eden. So, now, right, getting back to what we said, that Talmud Torah is considered to be the most important mitzvah. So, therefore, a person needs to do tshuva and Talmud Torah before everything else. Learning Torah. It's considered to be number one mitzvah. How important is Talmud Torah? Just to give you a little bit, right, the taste of it. We're going to see also the Shulchan Aruch was brought down. The Chazal tell us that all the other mitzvot, if you put them all together into one bundle, one pile, one side of the scale, Talmud Torah outweighs all of them. It's considered to be the heavyweight of all the mitzvot. Number one, nothing like it. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? That a person has to give more attention to this mitzvah than any other mitzvah. He has to be very, right? That's the idea. He has to be very, very attentive to this mitzvah. And not only that, they say some very, very strong words about this. That the person, the Gaon of Vilna writes, that even one letter of Torah, one word of Torah, is more. You get more reward for that for all the other mitzvot combined. This is the idea. Can you imagine how great that is? No other mitzvah comes even close to it, right? They say also that when a person learns Torah, he gets a special ot on his forehead. There's a sign on his head to protect him from all kinds of harm, so nobody can harm him, nobody can do anything to him. He has a very, very big power to be protected from all kinds of harm in the world. Talmud Torah. And it stays there. It doesn't go away. When it comes to the other mitzvot, it doesn't stay with you, the other mitzvot. You do it, it's done, right? Next. Next online, right? But when it comes to Torah, it stays with you all the time, right? It's something which is everlasting. Right? They say the only one which is even close to that is the tzedakah. Tzedakah is close to it. What does that mean? That also when it comes to tzedakah, they give you some kind of a lasting, protection with tzedakah as well, but still doesn't compare to Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah can get kulam.
Talmud Torah, everyday Torah?
Yeah, everyday Torah. Yeah, sure. We're talking about studying Torah, right? Not only to hear the Torah, to study the Torah as well. That's the idea. Talmud Torah. So, yeah, that's what we're doing now. Right? That's the idea. So, now we have to just to give you a little bit taste of how important it was for the Chachamim to learn Torah. That they shouldn't even miss 1 second of learning Torah. Because as we said, it says V'hagita bo yomam v'layla. You should dwell in the Torah day and night. Torah. That's the idea, right? So they say that a person who misses even 1 hour of Torah or 1 minute of Torah, that's also a big sin, very big sin. Just like they say, right, that Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, just like the mitzvah of Torah is weighed against all the mitzvot, also the sin of missing Torah is also weighed against all the other sins. This also goes the other way, right? It's always positive and negative. You have both sides. Understand? So how important it is not to miss Torah, especially when you have an appointed time for that. So they say the Gaon of Vilna, right? It's a famous thing they say about the Gaon of Vilna. When was he alive, Gaon of Vilna? About 250 years ago. He was considered to be one of the great rabbis of the last 300 years, right? One of the big chachamim. So he says that he used to make a cheshbon every year. Just now we're coming up to Rosh Hashanah, right? We're coming now to Yom Kippur. So at this time of year, he would make a cheshbon, a calculation. What was a cheshbon? To see how much Torah he missed this year. Why? Because he has to do tshuva. Teshuvah doesn't daven on this. You know what I mean? He needs to do tshuva for the Torah that he missed. So what will he do? He'll make a calculation. How much Torah did I miss this year? How much teshuvah do I need to do? This is the idea, right? So what? Can you imagine how strong was he? They say how many hours a day did he study Torah? The Gaon of Vilna? They say it was about 21, 22 hours a day. Can you imagine? 24 hours a day. He was studying that much. So what does that mean? Hardly ever slept. Right? His eating was, very frugal and very meager. Just the minimum to stay alive. Eat a little bit, drink a little bit, sleep a little bit here and there.
Just read.
22 hours a day learning Torah. Understand?
How long?
2 hours, and the rest, everything else.
How long?
All his life he was like that. All his life, from day one till the day he died. You understand? This is why he got to the level that he got to. You know what level he got to, Gaon of Vilna, right? He got to the level where the angels were coming to tell him you should study Torah from us, offering him to teach them Torah, and he was even refusing them. He was telling them, no, I don't want your Torah. I have my own Torah. I don't need your Torah. Thank you very much. Even people like those big angels like Eliyahu Navi were coming to him. Can you imagine? And telling him, you want to study with us? And he was telling them, no, I want to do my own Torah. He was into his own Torah, whatever it is, right? This is a very, very high level, something which we can't even fathom. What about in this generation, by the way? Do we have anybody like that? 22 hours a day? No. The truth is, 22 hours we don't have.
Nobody.
But you should know, what we did have in this generation was, the two big rabbis of the generation, Rav Laman and Rav Yashiv, who were the Gedolei Ador, the big rabbis of the generation. How long were they learning every day? They say Rav Yashiv was learning 18 hours a day Torah. Not bad, huh? Not bad for a modern, in the modern world. 18 hours a day. That means that what? There's 4 hours to sleep, eat, and drink, and go to the bathroom. Excuse my expression. Right? 4 hours for everything. Every day he was doing that until the day he died. 18 hours a day of Torah. Can you imagine?
What about the one year?
And Maran, he was probably even more than that. Probably even more. Right? You can. It was in that same league. These two were the great people of the generation. So what does that mean? That Maran, they say on Shabbat, by the way, on Shabbat, Rav Shalom, and also many days of the week, he didn't sleep all night. He used to go all night in Torah until the morning, no sleep. Right? So when would they sleep? In the afternoon, about 2-3 hours, they would sleep. But to sleep in the night was almost not existent by them. You understand? This is the way it was, because night is made for Torah. This is the way they were. Even in this generation, can you imagine we have chachamim like this? When it comes to missing Torah, you want to know how powerful it was? I'll tell you how powerful it was. Right? That they say that Maran Alav Shalom, there was two. I'll just give you two stories, and you understand how devoted he was to Torah. You understand how devotion was so great. There was one time, it's brought down in one of the books, there's many biographies that were written about Maran, about his lifetime. So one of the things they write is that one time there was a blackout, in Israel. Electricity went, blacked out. So what happened was that because of the blackout, there was no lights. So Maran, he couldn't learn Torah in the house. So what did he do? Instead of staying at home and sleeping, he went outside, because over there was some lamps, street lamps, and they were still on. So what did he do? He went there and he studied over there. He was in the street, at night. He went over there, next to the street lamp, and he was standing there at night. So what happened was that some rabbis passed by there, and they saw him, and they said, "What's going on?" So they said, "Oh, do you know who this is? Rav Vadia. He's over here because he has no lights in the house. He's studying over here in the street." So what happened? Now, that's not the punchline. The punchline is like this, right? They say that in the morning, they came around now to go to the shul in the morning, shacharit, to pray shacharit. They say he was still there, that when they went 6 o'clock in the morning, he was still there over there. They saw him again. They said, "You're still here studying Torah?" He stayed there all night in the street with the street lamp on top of him. This is how he was devoted to Torah. You understand what we're talking about? This is what the rabbis of the generation, this is the level that they're on. Even in our generation I'm talking about. I'm not talking about... I'll give you another story, right? Which also makes the point. They say one time there was also a blackout, not in the whole neighborhood. In Israel, by the way, it's very common to get blackouts. The electricity goes there. It's not so... The system is not so, stable there. It's very, very flimsy. So once a month or, every 2 months, you get a blackout over there. Happens all the time. Very, very common. So what happened, everywhere, all over Israel. So what happened was like this, right? Now, can you imagine that one night the electrician came to fix something in the house? There was an electric problem, in the rabbi's house. So what happened was that the rabbi was studying as usual, learning Torah. So what happened was that the electrician comes to the rabbi. He says, He says, one minute I got to turn off the electricity to test, make a test. He's like, I got to shut it off. So just a few seconds, and then I'll turn it back on. So the rabbi, when he heard that, he told the electrician, he says, wait 1 second, okay, you want to shut it off? He says, wait 1 second, and then shut it off. What did he do? He went to the window, where there was light over there, from the outdoor light, and he said, he didn't want to miss those few seconds, that he would turn off the electricity. So he says, okay, now you can turn it off. He had the lights over there. So okay, shut it off now. So you shouldn't miss that 5 seconds. You understand? Of Torah. This is how devoted, even in this generation, the big chachamim were. And there's also another story I'll tell you to make the point even stronger. Right? There's in the halacha, there's a machloket, there's a dispute in the poskim, when you go to the bathroom, right? Let's say, right? Excuse my expression. So what happens is that you have to wash your hands when you come out, right? So the question is, do you need to wash your hands with a cup, like you do in the morning, or can you just wash, from the sink, like regular, chuk 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 chuk. So the truth is, right? The halacha is that you don't need a cup when you come out of the bathroom. You don't need. What's the reason why? Because even though there is some ruach ra, there is some evil spirit in the bathroom, because it's not a clean place, unclean place. But nevertheless, even though there's an evil spirit over there, it's not so strong like, the one you have in the morning when you slept all night. Understand? This is the reason why. So therefore you don't need a cup. Right? But there are some who say, good to do with a cup. So there are some who are machmir, they're stringent to do with a cup even when they come out. But you don't need, really, the truth is, right? So one time they asked the rabbi, they said, they saw him, he doesn't use a cup when he comes out of the bathroom. He just washes with the sink. How did he do? He would do like this, right? He would do 3 times. Open up the sink, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like this, right? This is the way he used to do. The truth is, even once is enough, but 3 is better, whatever. But the point is like this, right? That they asked the rabbi. They said, "Why don't you use a cup? Don't you want to be machmir? Do you want to be like the stringents? Why don't you use a cup?" So you know what he answered, right? He says, "Kol chumra sheyesh lo b'bitul Torah lo osim ota." You know what that means? Every stringency which has bitul Torah, that you're missing Torah, we don't do the stringency like that. So what does that mean? For him, it was even that was also bitul Torah, to pick up the cup, that few seconds that it takes to fill it up. For him, that was also bitul Torah. You understand? This is he was missing Torah for a few seconds. This is the level we're talking about in this generation. You understand? Even the rabbis of this generation, that's how they were. It's unbelievable. We have people like this in our generation. Also, I can tell you, right, that Uman, the rabbi, I used to see him all the time. 15 years I was with him. So one thing also I noticed was that when he, everybody wanted him to be sandak for Brit Milah. They say, by the way, it's a big segula if you have a birth coming, and there was born a son to you, right, or grandson, right? Jimmy's gonna have a grandson soon, right? Bezat Hashem, right? So we all should have Bezat Hashem, more grandsons and children, whatever, right? All these things. So the point is like this, right? That there is a big mitzvah to bring a big rabbi to be the sandak. You know why? Because they say that it influences the child. When you bring like a big chacham, like this, to be sandak, that influence of his Torah goes on the child. He's not the mohel, he's the son, just holding him. The fact that he holds him brings a very, very great influence on the child. Baruch Hashem, I was zoche, 2 of my sons, I had Maran as a sandak for 2 of my sons. Baruch Hashem. And you can see, by the way, you know, the ones that he was a sandak, they're different, these children. They have a different way of life. They're much on a different level. I can tell you. Makes a difference. Anyway, the point is like this, right? That everybody wanted him to be sandak, the rabbi. All of Israel was looking for him sandak. So there, in his shul, almost every day there was a brit milah there. We almost never said tachanun. We never said vidui over there. Almost never. Maybe once a week, if you're lucky, we got vidui. Tachanun. We didn't say because every day there was a brit milah. Sometimes even 2 or 3. So what happened was like this, right? That he used to come to be sandak. So what happened was that sometimes he would go to also a different shul to be sandak. So what happened was that he would sometimes the mohel was late. Got stuck in traffic. Whatever, right? You know how it is, right? Satanish, Satania, Satanish, this. Yeah, you know how it is, right? Coming from Brooklyn, coming from over here, from New Jersey, Lakewood, this and whatever. So he gets stuck in traffic. So now the sandak comes there. The rabbi would come. He was there waiting for the mohel. So what would he do? Right away he would take a book and start learning, Torah. Not to sit there, and look at the ceiling, to start counting sheep, whatever. No, he was right away take the book and start learning Torah. This the person has to understand. Also, he told us, by the way, the rabbi, he told us as well, that when you're going on the road, let's say you're at the bus stop, right, or the train station, you're waiting over there, and doing nothing. He says, pick up something and learn something over there. Don't just stand there, and start dreaming, daydreaming. What kind of thing is this? He says that time is very crucial. You have to take advantage of these little moments over there. You're waiting for something. No, nothing is going on. Take something, take a Torah and learn something. On our phones we have everything. You can download the whole Torah on your phone today. Everything you have. So right away you can press a few buttons and you're there, right there. Bach, you already start action. Lights, camera, action. That's the idea. So why wait for what for wait? So he also told us when you're also on the bus or when you're on a train, take advantage of that time too. Don't waste those little moments. So it's considered to be every moment very, very crucial, very, very important. So a person shouldn't have bitul Torah, he shouldn't have that he missed Torah. He should try to, every moment to utilize for Torah. That's the idea. The Zohar Kadosh says, by the way, if you're studying Torah, you're plugged into life, the tree of life. It's Etz HaChaim Hiri Shel Machazikin Bo. What is that talking about, Etz HaChaim? We have this picture over there on the wall, right? We have the plaques over here. Etz HaChaim, right? What is the Etz HaChaim? The Etz HaChaim is Torah. The tree of life is Torah. So what does that mean? The Zohar Kadosh says, if you're plugged into a Torah, what does that mean? You're studying now, you're plugged in, that your life, that you have life. If you plug it out, you stop studying, that's it, it's death. Right there's death. You know what I mean? So every time a person chooses to plug out the Torah, he's choosing for himself lo aleinu death. That's what he's choosing. You understand? If he has it, and what I'm saying is it's possible for him to learn. Sometimes not possible. He has to go somewhere, he has a business meeting, he has something to do, okay, fine. What I'm saying is when you have free time, why to waste it on nonsense? You know what I mean? All kinds of shtuyot, all kinds of nonsense. Movies and this and concerts and what needs all these things? What are you going to get from these things? Plug into the life, plug it in. Everywhere you go, plug in. If you can't,
because they don't understand.
Yeah, if you don't have plug, so use your charger. Use your battery. That's why you have batteries. You have chargers. And that's the idea. That's so be plugged in all the time. So that's why Rabbi, we have to study these laws. So now, right, to understand a little bit, to give you a little bit taste of what we're talking about. So we're going to continue, right? It says in the Shulchan Aruch like this, right? That when you come to ask a rabbi a question, let's say, right? You have a question in halacha or something, you have an issue in your family, some kind of problem. So there's also derech eretz, diloba, like how to ask properly these questions. So here the Shulchan Aruch tells you, right, what's the proper way to ask a rabbi a question. So what it tells you like this, right? Don't ask a rabbi a question right away when he comes in, when he walks in. Why? Because he's not focused at that time. He's still like, from the road coming in. So he's not going to be able to answer you with a good focus, with a good concentration. So wait till he settles down. Give him a couple of minutes, drink some water, drink some coffee, sit down a little bit, jumped on him right away. Like you mugging him, give him some time, sit down a little bit, relax. He can rest his mind and be focused, and then he can give you a good answer. So that's also part of the idea, right? It tells you also, and also two people shouldn't ask at the same time, One person asks first, and then another one, right? Ziloba, one after the other, right? It's the common sense. And also tells you like this, right? ואין שואלים את הרב מעניין אחר אלא מאותו עניין שהם עוסקים בו כדי שלא יתבייש. ויש לרב להטעות את התלמידים בשאלותיו ומעשים שעושה לפניהם כדי להחרידם, כדי שלא ידע אם הם זוכרים, הם שלומדים. So it tells like this, right? Something interesting. That the rabbi has, the rabbis pull tricks on the talmidim sometimes. You know what they do, right? Sometimes when the talmidim give them a certain question, so the rabbi gives them the wrong answer on purpose. Why does he do that? Because he wants to test them if they're on the ball, if they're concentrating. Gives them like a silly answer, So what should the talmid do? Right away ask the rabbi, what are you talking about? What is this, rabbi? What is it? This is not correct what you're saying. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's doing that on purpose. You understand? Why? Because he wants to see if you're awake. He's not sleeping. Sometimes it's a good thing to do that a rabbi should test his talmidim like that. To see if they're on the ball. Once in a while to test them. To see where they're holding. That's the idea, right? So it goes on to say also, "En shoalim me'omed ela meshivim me'omed." So he says, right? Also, don't ask the rabbi when he's standing. Wait till he sits down, because then he's calm. He's more focused. Right? He's relaxed. That's the idea. When he's standing, he's not so focused. It's like a person who's like a judge. You know what I mean? You go to a judge, right? A judge has to be sitting down. That's the idea, right? The judges don't stand. Why? Because when you stand, you can't focus so well. You're not so concentrated very well. This is the idea, right? This is also derech eretz. And also the rabbi should not answer like that also as well. Sit down, relax, sit eye to eye, look at each other in the eye, and go like that. That's the idea, right? Okay, very good. That's the idea. Also, it says, when a person asks, you should ask with fear, What does that mean? Don't be a wise guy, Start making like wise remarks. Chutzpah, like chutzpah questions, to make the rabbi suffer. You understand? The person should not do that. What does that mean? He should ask, in a respectful way. A person when you're going to a rabbi, a big chacham, like this, to get an answer, it's like you're standing in front of the Shekhinah, in front of Hashem. This is So you have to have a little fear. There has to be a little bit of trepidation there. I'll tell you, when we were with Maran, we were certainly afraid of him. There was a lot of fear over there. Believe me when I tell you. You don't go to a person like this and start, fooling around, joshing around, making some kind of jokes, cracking. This is not a place for horseplay. It's a serious place. The Shekhinah is there, where the place where they're answering your halakha. That's the idea, right? So it's telling you to be careful a little bit, right? Also, it says, right, that don't ask more than 3 questions at one time. Why is that? Because you're confusing the rabbi if you ask more. How much can he take? He has to think about this question, about that question. Now you want to ask him 10 questions. You're gonna get confuse him like that. Everything should be 3 is enough. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you have more questions next time. Tomorrow. Come back tomorrow.
3 per person.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's the idea. Okay, you got the idea, right? That's the idea. Okay, so goes on to say. Let's go on. Tells you also another important thing about studying Torah, which is that en yashanim le Bet HaMidrash. We're not allowed to sleep in the Bet HaMidrash, a place where they study Torah. Yeshiva, Kolel. You're not allowed to sleep there. They say what happens is that if you do sleep there, Talmudo naaseh kiraim kiraim, right? Your knowledge, your Torah is going to become very incomplete. Like gaps with gaps. Why? Because every time you fall asleep, you're missing something. You're missing this point, you're missing that point. So don't make gaps in your learning like that. Falling asleep. Sleep at home. When you go home, sleep over there. This is not the place to sleep. Over here, you have to be attentive. Why? Because they're saying Torah every minute. So for sure, if you sleep all the time, if you have a habit of sleeping all the time, sometimes it happens. A person falls asleep. It happens to everybody. We're only humans. But don't make a habit out of this. Sleep a little bit, then wake up. Sleep a little bit, wake up. If you do like this, your learning is going to be not complete, with all kinds of gaps. You're going to be missing a lot of information. You don't have the whole picture. You don't have the whole comprehensive idea of what's going on. You're missing information. So it's like everything is ripped up. Like gaps, not complete. This is also it's a kavod of the Bet HaMidrash as well. That not a place for sleeping over there. But the truth is, they say that if a Talmid Chacham wants to sleep there because he doesn't want to go home, because it's going to cause him to lose more Torah like that, he's allowed to sleep there. If he wants to sleep there because of this reason, that going home is going to cost him bitul Torah, so he's allowed to sleep in the Bet HaMidrash. That's something else, right? But we're talking about when the study's going on, and everybody's there studying, and you're sleeping. This is very bad. This is what I consider to be something which you're going to miss. You're going to miss a lot of information like that. You're going to have very incomplete information. Well, that's the idea right there. Also, right, it tells you, a person shouldn't talk mundane matters in the Bet HaMidrash, in the yeshiva, in the place where they study, right? About politics, and all kinds of, talking about all kinds of stuff, this, going to restaurants and vacations and talking about all kinds of things. This is not a place for these things. When you go to a place where they learn Torah over there, it's a study hall. Over there, you only speak the words of Torah. That's the idea, right? Person has to be very careful about that, because this is a holy place. Those walls, that of that place acquire holiness. So they don't want to hear any more mundane words. Once a place becomes a Bet HaMidrash, once it becomes a study hall like that, as yeshiva, that place should not be used for mundane matters anymore. So the biggest mundane thing is to talk mundane, to talk all kinds of nonsense, all kinds of things like this. So a person has to be very, very careful to know when to talk and what to talk, right? That's the idea. So when it comes to this place, so how far does that go, by the way? The halacha says like this, right? That it says in the halacha that if a person sneezes in the Bet HaMidrash, where they study Torah over there, you're not allowed to tell him, Gesundheit. You're not allowed to tell him. Now, what's the reason why? Because it's bitul Torah. You're wasting time. You're stopping the Torah. What, to say Gesundheit? Tell him later. What, you think he's going to die now? What's going to happen to him? What's going to happen? Tell him now, Tell him later. What is This is not the time for that, The person has to know that every place, has its rules. So Bet HaMidrash is not a place for mundane talk. Even one word, it's going to make people miss Torah. It's going to make people get distracted from Torah. Not allowed to do that. That's how much we asevapasel to Torah. That's how much we value the Torah. This is the idea, right? Okay, very good. Let's go on. So it says now the Shulchan Aruch says something amazing, right? It says Talmud Torah shekel k'neged kol mitzvot היה לפניו עשיית מצווה ותלמוד תורה, אם אפשר מצוות לעשותה, על ידי אחרים, לא יפסיק. So it tells you, Shulchan Aruch, as we already mentioned, the Talmud Torah is considered to be like weighed against all the mitzvot. The most important mitzvah. So therefore, question is like this, right? Let's say you're learning Torah, and now somebody comes and tells you, come, let's go do a mitzvah. Like these guys come up, let's go for minyan. Yeah. This idea, right? So what should a person do in a case like that? So it says like this, right? That you should not skip Torah for a mitzvah. What does that mean? If somebody else can do that mitzvah besides you, let him go and do it. You know what I mean? Let him go and do it. You should not stop Torah for a mitzvah. The only way you should stop is when there's nobody else to do the mitzvah. It's only you. Let's say, for instance, somebody now just called you, right? Let's say somebody's sick. You guys go to the hospital. You got to drive him to the hospital. You know what I mean? So if there's somebody else to drive him, you should sit and learn. You know what I mean? If there's nobody else, okay, what can you do? We're going to let the guy die? Right? You got to take him. That's the idea, right? So if there's a choice to somebody else to go, let somebody else do it. If there's no choice, then you got to do it. That's the idea, right? So now, interesting thing about the minyan, right? By the way, it's a good question what you're asking. Yeah, it's a good question what you're asking. So the truth is that there's several issues over here regarding the minyan that we're talking about. Right? Number one is we have appointed time to learn Torah. There's like appointed time. 8 to 9, 8 to 9:30, whatever. Right? This thing. So the truth is that in a case like that, this is called bitul Torah d'Rabim. It's like there's a group learning Torah. It's even considered to be more important. We're talking about here an individual. Right? So group Torah is even more important. You have to know one thing, right? So for sure, if somebody comes and needs a minyan, he can go to Beit Gabriel and pray over there. So why do I have to go and miss my Torah for that? There's a minyan 10 o'clock at Beit Gabriel. The problem is what's the problem? They're too lazy to go over there. So they want us to miss our Torah, so they don't have to go and drive over for 5 minutes.
We will not miss.
They understand? That's the idea. So also there's another thing, right? Which is that going to minyan is really not an obligation so much. It's a mitzvah mina muvchar. What does that mean? It's the best way to do mitzvah, to pray with a minyan. If a person doesn't have minyan, he prays also by himself. You've done that many times, right? I also have. Sometimes you don't have minyan. What can you do, right? So what does that mean? You shouldn't pray? No, you got to pray anyway. So what I'm saying is that since it's not really an obligation to have a minyan, and also we also prayed already. We already did our bit. So for us to go there now, it's a waste of time. We're not really we're not obligated to pray anymore. We prayed already. So this is also another reason why. This is the reason why there's no minyan. There's no issue there. Whatever. But we're talking about even an individual, right? If an individual they offered him, come do this mitzvah now, right? He's studying Torah. So he tells him, you got to tell him like this. Maybe there's somebody else that can do that besides me. Go and find somebody else. Get somebody. The neighbor. Go to the neighbor. Go to your cousin. Whatever. Right? If nobody else can do it, okay. It comes back to you and tells you, listen, there's nobody available. Okay, so I'll go. What can I do? There's nobody can do it. But even if you do go, it says the Shulchan Aruch, you should come back and study afterwards, right? In other words, just enough to get him there and get back, whatever, right? Do the mitzvah, come back and continue if you can, right? If you have time to continue, doesn't mean you should not go home and quit. That's the idea, right? That's the halacha. Okay, you got the idea. Very good. So next one, right, tells you like this. The first thing they ask a person when he dies, lo aleinu, when he gets judged in the Shamayim. Right? They ask him about Talmud Torah. That's the first question. They don't ask you about if you were, you were honest in business. They don't ask you about how you behaved with your family. They ask you about that too later on. Later on. But the first question that they ask you is what? Did you have set times for Torah? That's the first question, right?
If you're a rabbi, same question they ask you?
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't matter whether you're a rabbi or not. It doesn't matter. Every Jew.
The first question.
Every Jew. The first question is, well, let's see. Were you punctual with your Torah? Did you show up on time? Did you leave? That's it. Everything they want. They want the whole list. How much did you learn? This and that.
Before we answer, they know everything.
Right, but they, even though they know everything, they want to first ask you. No, why? They want to ask you. And if he lies, they show him the video. Say, not exactly like that, huh? Right? They show him. They say, that's the idea. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're going to tell you, did you have set times for Torah? This is the first question that they ask you. So what does that mean? It's considered to be the most important element of the din. That if that person gets judged, he gets judged on that. Right? We're talking about men, as we said, right? Because women are not obligated to learn Torah. Really, they don't have an obligation of the Talmud Torah, right? We're going to get to that, by the way. We're going to talk about that. Why? What's the reason? The depths of the reason why the women are not suitable for that for several reasons. We talked about that also last week, but we have some more to add to that. There's some more elements as well. Okay, let's go on, right? As I said, look what it says, right? En divrei Torah mitkamim emi shetirbe atzmo alehem אלא בלומדם בתוך עידון, מתוך אכילה השתייה. So he says, you know what? If you really want to acquire the Torah, right? You have to know also there's a method to acquire. What is a method to acquire Torah? So he says, don't do it like in a very, luxurious, easygoing manner. What does that mean? Right? If you're like, eating and drinking and having a good time, K-popes, and then they hear some Divrei Torah also. That's not really the way to learn Torah, you know what I mean? Nice fancy foods, this and that, and smorgasbord, buffet.
Maybe some music.
Right, some, everything, right? In other words, he wants to live a luxury lifestyle. So telling you, right, that Torah and luxury doesn't go together, you know what I mean? That's why, right, I had made a remark about this, so Jimmy got, he didn't like this. I said there are some rabbis who are like Lexus rabbis, you know what I mean? Lexus. I'm not talking about any particular rabbis, so that's not the issue, right? That's not the issue. What I'm saying is that there's a Lexus lifestyle, you know what I mean? It's not the way to acquire Torah like that. Luxury, everything. I don't care if you own Lexus, you can own Lexus. I have nothing against it. That's not the issue, right? But there's also a Lexus lifestyle, you know what I mean? Easy, nice, luxury, I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere. Everything has to be nice and beautiful, luxurious. That's not the way to acquire the Torah. So that's what the halakha is telling you over here. Understand? So what does that mean? Don't make the Torah into some kind of like some kind of party. Some kind of a hangout.
Like a grocery.
That's right, exactly. That's not the way to acquire Torah. Because the luxury and the Torah doesn't go together. If you want to acquire Torah, you have to suffer a little bit, sweat it. You got to sweat it a little bit. So what is it telling you over here? Even more, right, regarding that. It's telling you that you have to kill yourself for the Torah. You know what I mean? You have to really exert yourself, sweat it. You got to go that extra mile. Don't look for luxurious lifestyles. Live simple. If you want to acquire Torah, be a simple person. Eat and drink and sleep, whatever you need, but don't go for all kinds of extras. All kinds of things like this. Right? There's one Rosh Yeshiva used to say, Rav Shach, used to say, eat good, sleep good, and learn good. You know what I mean? In other words, do everything good, but don't go into excesses. You know what I mean? When you want to get into luxury lifestyle, things that you don't need, all kinds of extra things which are not needed for the body, you don't need them. If you go into this luxury lifestyle, you're not going to acquire the Torah like that. It doesn't go together. You know what I mean? So it's telling you that you have to. It says, right, that really the truth is a person who really acquires the Torah, you know who that is? A person who kills himself for the Torah. What does that mean to kill himself for the Torah? What does that mean? He has to commit suicide? We're not talking about that, right? Not to commit suicide. So we're talking about, it's like he killed himself. You know why? Because he denies himself the basic, luxuries of life. He sweats it, he roughs his life. He lives a rough lifestyle. Like it says in Pirkei Avot, right? Just drink some water, eat some bread, and go and study. Why are you not looking for all kinds of extra things? Going to restaurants, go to kolbe, jolbe, all kinds of places. Eat over there some shish kebabs, What every day you have to shish kebabs every day. Every day you have to have some fancy, foods every day. What do you need all that for? What you can't eat at home? A simple meal? Your wife paid for you something. Whatever. You made some scrambled eggs. You can't eat that. Well, you have to go to fancy restaurants all the time. For what? What do you need it for? What do you need all this lifestyle for? This is not conducive to Torah. You know what I mean? Once you fill yourself up with those fancy foods, you don't want to learn Torah anymore. You want to go sleep now. That's enough. That's the way it's done. First, nice fancy foods, then you watch a little bit of TV, this and that, right? You go to sleep, and then tomorrow, right? That's it, right? It's gone. The whole night you lost. Why is that? Because you're chasing after the luxury lifestyle. This is not good.
That's
this is not the way.
When Mashiach comes?
That's something else. The truth is, that as we talked about before, when it comes to Mashiach, there's different levels, right? First, Mashiach ben Yosef, which is like everything normal, basically. Normal. Everything is according to the laws of nature. Then Mashiach ben David is like miracles, it's like a higher level. Then Olam Haba is even a higher level. They say, right, in Olam Haba, it says in the Gemara, there's no eating and drinking over there. Everything's spiritual, right, exactly. Even though we're going to have a body, but it's going to be much more higher, elevated body, sanctified body. No more tumah, no more impurity in the body. Everything is holy. Just like Adam Arishon, the way he was, that's the way it's going to be, right? No sins, no bad desires, no nothing, right? Olam Haba is pure and perfect. That's the idea, right? It goes step by step.
And when is the war of Gog and Magog? In the Ben Yosef?
The war of Gog and Magog is going to be right at the time of coming of Mashiach, right? In other words, the second one probably, right? The second one, yes. There are different exactly, right. That's the idea, yes, that's the idea. So, there's going to be, by the way, they say this, according to Zohar Kadosh, there's going to be many wars. it's going to be like a series of wars, The Zohar Kadosh says it's going to be like this, right? Every day, 3 battles. For like consecutively, for several days like that. Going, like this. It's going to be a scary time this time. It's not going to be an easy time. You understand? So anyway, getting back to what we said. So a person has to, if he really wants to acquire the Torah, he has to, live a rough life, rough it. He's got to rough it. That's the idea, right? You can imagine, right? A person, as we said, who's studying Torah 18 hours a day, that's a rough life. I mean, you barely have time to sleep. You have barely time to eat.
So basically, give up the luxuries.
Exactly, right? Little by little, little by little. A person has to go slow with these things. If you try to go too fast, the Satan will knock you down. He's not going to let you go so fast like that. If you try to become all of a sudden, one day Baba Sali, Baba Sali Gafdir, what Baba Sali? Yesterday you were, you're going bowling, miniature golf. Today you're going to be Baba Sali. How's it going to work like that? You're going to go slowly, It's an ascent. You have to ascend slowly, one step at a time, one stair at a time, right? That's the idea, little by little. If you try to go too fast, he'll knock you down, He'll knock you right back where you were. It's not going to work like that. The Yetzirah doesn't allow a person to go that fast. That's the idea, right? Okay, so as we said, right, that the person has to be careful regarding how he lives his life. So it says also, right, he has to deny himself. He has to cause a little bit of pain to his body as well. What does that mean? Deny yourself a little bit, sleep. Don't always sleep every time you want to. Try to overcome. You know what I mean? If you're sleepy, drink some coffee, take a walk, go outside, get some oxygen, or take some water, splash it on your face. Work, push yourself a little bit. Don't be like such a like a lucky, spoiled person. Don't be so spoiled like that. Every time you fall sleepy, okay, I'm sleeping. Come on, man. If you were now to make a, what's the litmus test, right? We're good for this. They say one rabbi, they say, right, he was also in our generation. They say that he used to get up every morning so early, like 4 a.m. to study Torah, and then pray Shachrit at 6 o'clock, right? So every morning to get up 4 a.m. That's not easy to do. It's not an easy life. So they used to ask him, right? One Talmid, he asked him, they said, Rabbi, he said, how do you do that every day? You get up at 4 a.m. like that? Never fails, Not one time you miss it. So you know what he answered him? He says, tell me, if you had $1 million deal to do that day, this day, right? Would you get up at 4 a.m.? He says, yeah, of course, I would get up 4 a.m. I would jump up right away. He said, no problem. So he says, for me, the Torah is like $1 million deal. You know what I mean? That's why I get up every day, 4 a.m. If you really value, if you really value the Torah, it's like $1 million deal every day. So you get up on time, that's the idea, right? So a person, if he really values the Torah, he knows that he has to a little bit cut corners, Deny yourself a little bit sleep. If you used to do 6 hours, or you used to do 8 hours, do now a little bit less, 7 hours, 6 hours. A little bit, push yourself a little bit. You got to push a little bit. Because the person who wants to live luxury life, always sleep when you want, always do this when you want. There are also people who deny themselves as well as it talks about food as well. What does that mean? Let's say a person is a little bit hungry. It's now time for him to eat dinner, time to eat lunch, but he didn't finish his studies yet. He went a little bit slow. He didn't finish his program yet to study. So what is a person who's really loves Torah? First he finishes, right? He won't eat right now. He'll delay his meal. Even though the food is going to get cold, right? It's going to stay there. It's going to get stale, right? Everything, whatever. But he didn't finish his learning yet. So what is he going to do? He's going to deny himself a little bit, 2 hours, 3 hours, and eat a little bit later. The food won't go anywhere. Believe me, nobody's going to take it from you. That's what I say about Maran Rabbi. They say that every day when they used to go, the whole family, right? They used to put like a dish of food in front of him for lunch, and they would leave. Everybody has to go to work. They got this place to go, that place to go. So the rabbi was alone. So what happened was that sometimes they would leave them some lunch, and they would come back in the evening, 6, 7 o'clock, and the food is still there, So they would tell the rabbi, "What happened? You didn't have lunch today?" They said, I forgot, He says, I wasn't learning, and I was too much involved in the learning. So I forgot. Many times it used to happen like this, all the time. The rabbi would not skip meals, like this, because he was so much immersed into the Torah. He would just totally forget about the food. The food is not important, when you're into this world, it's not so important anymore. Same thing, right? There's a story, the same thing exactly. What happened was that one day, right? They say that the rabbi used to have a big library, thousands of books, as we discussed already. So what happened was he would take out many of them to study at night, and he didn't have a chance, strength to put them back. He was a 90-year-old man. You know what I mean? So he used to have a special boy in the morning to come, right, like a yeshiva student, and he would come in the morning at 7 a.m. and put back all the books. That's the idea. So we're talking about hundreds of books, maybe, right? Whatever, tens of books, dozens, whatever. So what happened was that once in a while, the rabbi, he would find him come in. He was sleeping, and once in a while, the rabbi would not be sleeping. So he's sitting in a chair and still learning. So he would tell the rabbi, this guy who comes to clean up the books, he would tell him, he says, Rabbi, he says, what happened? You didn't go to sleep? He says, he would tell him, he says, I forgot. I forgot to sleep. I was in my learning. I forgot to sleep. I'm always sleeping. That's the idea, right? So you see from there, right? This is the way a person has to is a little bit deny himself, push himself a little bit, for the Torah. That's the idea, right? You got to push. No pain, no gain, right? That's what they say, right? Also in the Torah, believe me, it's like that. When there's no pain, there's no gain. That's the idea. Okay, that's the idea. You got the idea. So comes and tells you here, the Ramah also, that when it comes to, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, so when it comes to the issue of how much should a person study all day, right, or half a day or whatever, so the Chazal tells you the Ramah over here that a person should try to maximize his learning and minimize his work. We talked about that inside, right? When we talked about that last week, a person should try to minimize his work as much as possible, right? Don't get involved so much in work 12, 14 hours a day. Some people think, the more you work, the more money you make. It doesn't work like that always. That's not the equation, right? If a person studies Torah more and works less, he can make more money like that. Why? Because he has bracha, he has blessing, right? That's what the sages say. That in the old generations, they said, right, they used to make more money. The people were richer. In our generations, people are not making so much money, right? Everybody's crying, Tirian, Oh, there's no business, I don't have any business. So what's the reason why? So say the Chazal, the reason is because in those days, most of the time was going for Torah, and the minimum of the time was going for work. What does that mean? Let's say they were learning 9 hours a day to Torah, and working 3 hours a day. Now just the opposite, right? Most of the day they're working, and a little bit Torah, and they're somewhere, they slip in something here and there. So what they say is now they have nothing from both sides, right? They're getting the raw deal, right? They don't have a lot of parnasah, and they also don't have a lot of Torah. They're losing from both sides. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? That a person who's learning more, he has more bracha. He doesn't have to work as much. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes into account how much he's doing, and according to how much he's striving in Torah, his parnasah comes easier. That's the way it is. You know what I mean? This goes, by the way, to the extreme as well. What does that mean? If a person devotes himself totally to Torah, he doesn't have to do nothing for parnasah. Depending on how much devotion he has. If he has a little devotion, he has to work more. If he has a medium, he has to work medium. If he has a lot of devotion, he doesn't have to work much. If he has total devotion, he doesn't have to work at all. So it's your choice. You're the one who decides. You know what I mean? Nobody decides for you how much you're going to have this equation. How much Torah, how much work. According to how much Torah you devote yourself to, there's going to be less work, right? And it can go all the way until 100%. That's the idea, right? That's what the Ramah is telling you over here. Also comes and tells you, right, that regarding a person who should, if he has a choice, right, to learn Torah all day or to half a day, right, half a day to work, half a day to learn. So what's the better thing to do? So the truth is, in our generation, right, even though the Rambam says it's not good to do this, but in our generation, most of the rabbis, they say that if a person wants to be really Talmid Chacham, he should learn all day and not go out to work at all. You know why? Because in our generation, it's not possible to do both, to be a jack of all trades. To do a little bit work, a little bit this, a little bit that, you're not going to become Talmid Chacham like that. The only way in our generation to become Talmid Chacham is to devote yourself to Torah all day. So therefore, it says the Ramah, right, that there has to be a budget in the community for this, to support a kollel. People are learning all day. Yeshivot. This is the way that you bring the next generation of leaders into the world. How? If you raise them up by supporting them and right, making sure that they have what they need. So in the next generation, you're also going to have more people who are Gdolim in Torah, who are big Talmidei Chachamim. But if you don't do that, right, if you don't have it in your community, this kind of a program for Talmidei Chachamim, a kollel, and a yeshiva, things like this, so what happens? Next generation is going to be everybody Amaretz. Nobody's going to be Talmidei Chacham. Because the community did not have a program for this, right? Exactly. This is the problem, The Ashkenazim, by the way, they have a rule about this. You know what the rule is? They say that this is from experience. They learn. It's a statistic, that they learned. They say that when a community starts out somewhere, right, wherever, they started out in the Bronx, they started out in Queens, they started out here and there. They say it's about a 50-year process. The community, 50 years. What does that mean? That if there's no Torah over there in this community, in 50 years the community will die. It's like a rule, statistic. What does that mean? That there's no yeshiva over there, there's no kollel going on, there's no Torah study. This is the engine of the community, the community goes on that. the drive goes. That's the engine. It comes from there. So if you don't have that, there's no education. There's no Torah education going on there. So what happens? The community, 50 years, will dissipate. This guy moved to Long Island. This guy moved to Florida. This guy moved to California. Right? This guy went over there. This guy went to Tel Aviv. This guy went. Everybody dissipates. Why is that? Because there was no Torah over there. There was no education. So the new generation that grew up, they all move out. You know why? Because they don't really feel connected to the community. This is the problem. It's a statistic. It's a known rule. 50 years. If there's no Torah over there, community is done. That's it, right? There's no continuation for the community. So what does that mean? That the leaders of the community have to know that, have to understand that the main ingredient of the community is Torah. That's what keeps the community going. They think, that some people have a mistaken notion that they think, oh yeah, let's put some, basketball, let's play basketball, let's play ping pong, This is not what's going to give you. They have better places to go play basketball. They have better courts, they have better places to go. They're not going to come here for that. So what are they really going to come for? If there's really over there a community which is tight knit, and there's they feel together in the in the honor of Torah and in the continuation of Torah, education. That's where they're going to stay. Otherwise, right, community 50 years, it's a goner, right? And this is exactly what happens. This is why the Jews are always shifting from one place to another. They one time in the Bronx there was a huge community over there. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And now there's almost nothing left. Why is that? Because of this rule. When you don't have Torah, the community dies out in 50 years, right? They move from one place to another. Right? Most over here also. Here, one time, right? This was Ashkenazi stronghold over here. Regal Park Forest Hills. Now most of them are gone. They moved here, they moved out there. Now the Bukharians came, right? This game goes on, right? There's always a shift like that going on all the time. Why is that? Because when you don't have a continuation of the community with education, it doesn't survive the community, right? That's the idea, right? It's a known statistic. That's the way it is. Okay, let's go on. So tells you also another thing over here, right? Which is also very important to know. So the question is, where should a person learn Torah, right? So it tells you that if you're learning in a holy place like a Bet Knesset, Bet Midrash, Yeshiva, over there the Torah you remember better. There's a segula, there's a power to remember your Torah better. But if you're studying it just at home or some other place in your business, whatever, the Torah over there is not so powerful. So the best place to study Torah, especially the public places, the public learning, of groups of learning, should be in a holy place. Yeshiva, Bet Knesset, synagogue, right? This is a place where there's holiness over there. So therefore the Torah you learn over there stays with you longer. It has a lasting power. This is one of the spiritual things that we have a tradition from our forefathers, right? That this is considered to be the best way to study Torah. And also another thing he says over here, right? Which is that a person who studies Torah in private, what does that mean? That people are not watching him so much. In other words, he devotes himself to Torah, he locks himself somewhere, and he studies Torah. That Torah stays with him for a long time. There's a blessing over there. You know why? Because when you have people watching you, it's Ein Hara, they're always bothering you also. They're coming and telling you, you want this, what about this? They give you a headache. So a person who really wants to become Gadol in Torah, great in Torah, what should he do? Be like in a closed place, right? In a private setting, not be in a place where everybody's watching over there, everybody's bothering him and passing by. Hi, how are you? You gotta be in a quiet place. There's no ayin over there. There's no ayin hara. To the toilet, that's the idea. So a place like that, a person can really acquire Torah, like a more private setting. That's the idea, right? So okay, let's go on. So also another thing, right, which is considered to be very crucial, by the way, this one. They say, right, if you're learning Torah, the best way to remember, you know how that is? To learn loud, with a loud voice. You don't have to scream, but you should say out loud the Torah. They say if you're learning silently, just quiet, like just looking at the book, staring, you don't remember so much you're learning like that. So what should a person do? There's a story in the Gemara like this, right? They say that one time Bruria, right, who was the wife of Rabbi Meir, this lady was a big Talmid Chacham herself. She was very learned in Torah. This is pretty rare, right? There are ladies like this. So what happened was that one time she saw one man who was studying Torah quietly, without saying out loud. So what did she do, right? She kicked him, gave him a kick. She says, what's with you? She says, you studying Torah like that? Not saying out loud the words? She says, you forget your Torah like that. You don't remember like that. So she gave him like a big nice kick, to tell him, what's with you, Don't you know? It says in Halakha that a person, when he studies Torah, he should say out loud the Torah, right? Not just to sit there, daydream. Like that you don't remember so good what you're learning. That's the idea, right? So a person has to know Use your mouth. That's what Kadosh Baruch Hu gave you a mouth for, not to speak lashon hara, right? That's the. What did He give you to speak the Torah? Speak words of Torah. That's the idea, right? So a person should hear what he's saying when he learns Torah. You should hear, not just whispering. Why are you learning like that? What's the because he wants to relax. That's too relaxed. You're too relaxed like that. You should be your body should be moving also. They say, right? A little bit action, motion, your body, not just leaning back like this. Rav Moshe Feinstein, they say, Rav Moshe Feinstein. They said that every time he studied Torah, he was also in our generation. Every time he studied Torah, he was in Manhattan, one of the great rabbi of America. So they say that he would never lean back on the chair, like this. Use the backrest, never. Always he was like this, like this, right? They asked him, why don't you lean back? They said, I get too relaxed like that. No good. Right? The person has to be a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit, push himself a little bit when it comes to Torah. If you're too comfortable, luxury lifestyle, like this, couch potato, put your feet up on the footrest, right? Like this, You're gonna fall asleep in 15 minutes, right? You're gonna be gone, right? That's the idea, right? So a person has to know, right, that there's ways to learn Torah properly, right? The proper way to learn is to be, your body has to be involved in that, the motion, a little bit moving, right? Action, there has to be action in your body. That's the idea, right? Otherwise, you're gonna fall asleep and you're gonna remember also. That's the idea. Okay, they're very good. Let's go on, Rabbi. So right here also tells you Shulchan Aruch, something we already mentioned, but it's good to mention it again, right? He says that if you want to really have the Torah knowledge, you want to be great in Torah, don't miss the nights. Make sure that at night you're learning Torah, because they say, right? The Rambam says that most of the Torah that a person knows is learned at night. The night is more conducive to learning Torah. So therefore, don't waste your time at night, doing mundane matters, watching TV, watching movies, watching football games, this and that. Right, boxing, 15 rounds, heavyweight championship, box, right, all these kinds of things. This is all Bitul Torah. So a person at night, this is a time if you really want to acquire the Torah, they say, right, don't waste your nights. Every night, use it for Torah. Don't use it for other things. So it tells you, right, also something amazing, right? It tells you, don't sleep, don't drink, and don't eat. So what does that mean? What are you talking about? A person is supposed to sleep at night. That's the way the night is for sleeping, right? So how does it tell you?
Learning is also entertainment.
Yeah, you're right. It's true. Yeah, sure. There's nothing like that. Absolutely.
Like it or not, you entertain.
That's true. But they say, right, that like this. They say, don't waste. It tells you, don't eat, don't drink, don't sleep. What does that mean? Well, I can't sleep at night? What is that? What kind of thing is that? Who can do that? Only the big rabbis can do that. But you know what it means to tell you? Minimize your sleep as much as possible. If you can get by with 6 hours, don't sleep 8 hours. For what? To sleep 2 hours extra? You don't need it. If your body doesn't need it, you can function with 6 hours. So why do 8? For what? What? You're a child? What? Your grandmother? What? Even the grandmothers, by the way, they get up early. Right? They get up early. The grandmothers, just the opposite, right? As a person, they say that gets older, needs less sleep. You know that, right? So what does that mean? That if you get older and you don't need to sleep so much, why sleep 8 hours? For what? You can get by with 5 or 6. So learn for 3 hours instead. Why waste your time sleeping? So what does it come to tell you? That when it comes to eating and sleeping and drinking, these things, do it the minimum, at night. Just what you need to get by. But no doubt start getting into fancy, foods and fancy, restaurants and this. Don't waste your time, get into Torah, and you utilize your time, because most of the knowledge you're going to acquire in Torah is at night. In the daytime, people are busy. They're working, they're stepping, they're hustling, they're this guy. They don't have time for Torah. So when does a person really have time for Torah? At night, right? It also tells you, right, in the Zohar Kadosh, as we already mentioned, that a person who learns Torah at night, what does that mean? He gets kindness in the next day. He doesn't have to work so hard the next day. He gets blessed. The grace of God is upon him. And they say, by the way, in the Zohar Kadosh, that a person who learns at night, especially the second part of the night we're talking about, after midnight, right? After 1 a.m., they say that the next day, when he goes out, people can see there's a sign on his head, that he's a holy person. So they treat him with awe. This person, they can see, they can see that he's devoted to God. He's a man of God. They can see that. So he gets a different kind of a system altogether, different kind of treatment, different kind of attitude from everybody, from God and from people.
Very interesting.
Because they see, right, that person he learned Torah at night, especially the second part of the night. That's considered to be, right, this guy, everybody's going to treat him like a different way, even God, right, especially God. That's the idea. So a person shouldn't waste his nights in mundane matters, right, all kinds of nonsense. Every minute that you have free, Learn Torah, that's the idea, right? And then you're going to acquire really Torah by doing like that, living like that, in this manner. Okay, let's go on over time. So, look what it says, right? Right? It says that every house that you don't have divrei Torah over there at night, you know what happens? Comes a fire and eats it. Right? So what is it talking about over here? Not only a real fire, I'm not talking about that. That's not a fire in every house. But what we're saying is like this, right? That when a person doesn't have Torah at night in the house, all kinds of squabbles come, all kinds of fights, arguments, lack of shalom bayit, lack of peace in the house. There's no peace. So what happens is it comes the fire of machloket, right? Of strife, and eats up the house at night because there's no Torah over there. So what does that mean? That a person not only has to have Torah in the Bet HaMidrash, in the synagogue, he has to also have Torah in his house as well. You have to sanctify your house with Torah. If there's no Torah over there in the house, the house is like, it becomes a place of sin, a place of mundane matters. It's not sanctified. That's why they say, by the way, that a person who gets a new home, let's say, right, buys a new home, so there's a minhag like this, right, the custom to do Chanukah Habayit, dedication, to dedicate the house. What's a way to dedicate the house? There are several things that they do, right, to sanctify the home. One is to put mezuzot, right, in every room, right? Every room gets a mezuzah. Not like some people, they just put in the main entrance the mezuzah, right? Every room has to have mezuzah. Right? Almost every room, right? You have to know. Ask a rabbi which room requires, which room doesn't require. There's all kinds of rules about that. So number one thing is, right, first thing we do when we come into a house, we put mezuzot, because this provides protection from the harmful agents that are around. They say, right, that every door sill, every doorpost doesn't have mezuzah. Over there, there's bad angels ready to harm you. They're waiting for you to come through there. They're gonna give you some, so they're gonna teach you a lesson, right? So therefore, a person has to make sure that his mezuzot are kosher also. He buys from a good dealer, somebody who's God-fearing person. Not like go to just some store, and buy some mezuzot. You never know where this came from. Only God knows where it came from. There are, by the way, in Israel, you should know. You want to hear something really funny? There are even Arabs who are running mezuzot. Can you imagine? So can you imagine? You go to a store, you go to you buy mezuzah, and it was written by an Arab guy. Is this kosher? No, it's not kosher.
I write it.
Even though that's also right. Yeah, but they write them also. They know how to write. Can you imagine? So you have to, when you buy mezuzah, you have to buy from a person who's God-fearing. He's a good dealer, somebody who you can trust him. Somebody who's. That's the idea. So the first thing we do when we get to the house is put mezuzah. The first day, right? What's the second and third thing to sanctify the home? One is to study the Torah, right? They have a special sidur for that. Special Torah they have. Everybody takes a piece of Torah from the Zohar, Rambam, all kinds of places, right? Gemara, Halacha. They do each one takes a piece of Torah and learns it over there. They sanctify the house like that. So what sanctifies the house? First the mezuzah, then the Torah, and there's one more thing they do, right? They do tzedakah. Tzedakah also, tzedakah. What does that mean? That they collect money for somebody who needs tzedakah. So that home has three things over there, right? One is the mezuzot, to protect over there. Second is the Torah, and number three also tzedakah. Because tzedakah is chesed, kindness. There's also kindness in the home, right? So you have all these three things. The seudah is also nice, but that's not the main idea, right? That's just for your stomach, It'll get filled up, kavod, that's a little kibud, that's good, but these three things make the house sanctified. So what does that mean? That in order to sanctify every home, you have to have Torah over there. Torah study going on over there, Don't just think, I'll come here to Sefer Torah on Shabbat. What does that do for your house? You also need, in your house also you need Torah, right? You don't need to have a Sefer Torah, but you should have books over there in the house. Books, you have to have Torah books. It sanctifies the home, makes the home into a different kind of place altogether, right? That's the idea, right? Okay, you get the idea. Let's go on. So it says, right, look what it says, right? כל שאפשר לא לעסוק בתורה ואינו עוסק או שקרא שנה ופירש חבר לאדם והניח תלמודו וזנחו הרי זה בכלל כל דבר כדבר השם ביזה. So he says a person who was able to learn Torah, but he doesn't want to learn, wants to go and entertain himself, all kinds of entertainment, right? All kinds of things like this. Or, right, they say, similar manner, that let's say a person who started to learn Torah, became like a Talmid Yeshiva, whatever, and he abandoned it, Daleba. So regarding people like this, right, they had a chance to learn and they left the Torah. The Pasuk says, right, that they disgraced the Torah. That's what it says in the Pasuk about them. They disgraced the words of the Torah like that. What does that mean? That you tasted already how good the Torah is, and then you left it, you abandoned, and you went and you left the Torah? Nothing worse than that. Because if a person doesn't know how good the Torah is, he never tasted it, so there you can understand why he doesn't come to the Torah. He doesn't know the taste of the Torah. But a person, once he learned, he saw the taste of the Torah, he saw how sweet it is, how good it is, and he abandoned the Torah. Nothing worse than that, right? They say he's considered to be worse than everybody else. What does that mean? You have two people, right? We have one person who never learned Torah. He doesn't know what Torah is. But a person who learned and he knows how good it is, and he left it. This guy's considered to be like the pits. The bottom of the bottom, right? That's the way. How can you? Once you see how great the Torah is, how can you leave it? That's the idea. That's the okay. You got the idea. Also, right? Tells you, "Kolam batel et Torah mi'osher, sofer lebatela mi'oni. Kolam mekayem et Torah mi'oni, sofer lekayem mi'osher." Right? This is a very important rule. Don't forget this rule. It says, right, whoever abandons the Torah and he was wealthy. In other words, he could have studied because he had money. He had parnasah. Everything was good, comfortable. Millionaire. Living a good life, living a nice, good life, but he doesn't want to learn Torah. Wants to go and entertain himself. So it says, if you abandon the Torah when you're rich, eventually you will be poor. That's what will happen to you, right? This is lo aleinu, right? Lo aleinu. That's the idea. So a person who abandons the Torah and everything is good for him, eventually he'll lose. Why is that, by the way? Why will he lose like that? You know why? Because they say, right, that all the blessing of parnasah comes from the Torah. So when you give up the Torah, you're giving up your parnasah from there. You're losing your parnasah. Nothing brings you parnasah like Torah. Which pasuk says that? Right? It says, "Osher bechavod bismola." Right? What does that mean? That kavod and osher, wealth, comes from the Torah. Right? Orech yamim mimina, osher bechavod bismola. Bismola osher bechavod. So Torah gives you long life. That's what it says, right? Gives you longevity, increases your life, and also gives you wealth. And gives you kavod as well, right? Kavod, honor. So everything, all these three things come from the Torah. So if you abandon the Torah, you're losing. You're by your hands. You're abandoning these things. You're abandoning your parnasah, because the parnasah comes from Torah. People become wealthy billionaires because they study Torah. They come to a lecture. They come, 2-3 times a week to a lecture. They don't know. They don't realize that from there they made their millions. They don't realize. They don't understand these things. People don't know how to appreciate it. You understand? That's the idea. Okay, so they say the opposite, right? Also applies. That if a person was poor, but he was still makpid, he was still, very diligent to learn the Torah, even though he was poor. It's hard. He doesn't have parnasah. So eventually, they say he'll be learning also when he's rich. He'll get rich eventually, right? As we said, whoever attaches himself to the Torah eventually become wealthy. So this is a promise. You know what I mean? This is the idea. So a person should have to know that the wealth, the parnasah. This is, if you want to get into it, tap into Torah. This is the way to do it. Nothing better than that, right? All the blessing comes from there. As we said, right? There's two main sources of blessing for parnasah. One is Torah and one is Shabbat, right? Tap into both of them. Eventually, you're going to be good. You're going to be set, right? That's the idea, right? Eventually, everything will be good. That's what they say about Rabbi Akiva, right? When they started out Rabbi Akiva to study Torah, he was poor. He didn't have a place to sleep. He married his wife, and they didn't have a bed to sleep on. They used to sleep on hay, on teben, on hay they were sleeping. A bed of hay. They didn't have a bed. So what happened was Rabbi Akiva went and he studied Torah for 24 years. In yeshiva, he left his wife. His wife told him, he said, go, don't study Torah, become a Talmid Chacham. So he devoted his life to Torah 24 years. So what happened, right? They say in the end, when Rabbi Akiva finished his learning like this 24 years, eventually became very, very wealthy, became like a billionaire. And all miraculous. He didn't have to work. He got, this inheritance and that inheritance. He inherited over here, inherited over there. He got money coming from all kinds of places. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give him all his parnasah miraculously? Because he sat and learned for 24 years. So he says, if you devoted your life for me for 24 years to study Torah, everything you get for free. Everything is a freebie. Now that's the idea. So a person has to know, right, that the Torah is the main source of this. That's the okay, let's go on about that. As we go on, we'll finish over here, right? I'm still keeping you too long. So the last thing is like this, right? We'll finish up on a good note, right? On a happy note. Right? So it tells you like this, right? That when a person finishes a Torah book that he learned, he has to make a party, right? That's it. It's called out Seudat Masechet, right? A person, any book that he learns, any Torah book, whether it's Shulchan Aruch or Gemara or Tanakh or Bible, whatever, he has to make a seudah on that. So once we finish, we make a nice big seudah. And make it nice fancy, by the way. There are some people that like to do it cheap way. bring some potato chips and some donuts. That's not the way to make a seudat like that. Seudat masechet, a person should go all out, bring the fancy foods, the kolbe, this right, batkineve, shish kebabs. Bring a really fancy dinner, because this is seudat mitzvah. This is not considered to be the mundane seudah. It's considered to be something from mitzvah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bezat Hashem, should be mezakeh us, that we should have many seudot mitzvah, and a good life and happiness and wealth, and good new year, Bezat Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you life, health, and happiness, and blessing, abundance, shefa, parnasah, tova, and also good tidings, or smachot, rak smachot. Amen, amen. Thanks for coming. God bless you. All the best.
Thank you.